Let's turn to the story now. The National Union of Mineworkers has condemned the Pretoria High Court's decision to set aside a 54 billion rand proposed settlement between Eskom and the National Energy Regulator of South Africa over an electricity tariff miscalculation. The union has described the legal challenge by AfriForum as unpatriotic and counter-revolutionary, accusing the group of deliberately seeking to destabilize the national power utility. NUM says the dispute is a direct consequence of Eskom's unbundling. To discuss this further, we're joined now by NUM Energy Sector Coordinator Khangela Baloyi. Good to have you, and thank you very much, Mr. Baloyi, for your time. It seems NERSA miscalculated, went back to Eskom, saying, yes, you need to claw back some money, but we seem to have miscalculated. Now, they say what you deserve is 44 billion. I think Eskom says, no, we need maybe 60. And they together decide to settle at 54. Now the courts say, but where's the public in all this? What do you find wrong about that?
Maybe let me give you the background of this issue, where it's coming from. Actually, the miscalculation was around 107 billion. You know, and then the settlement is at 54 billion. And this, we believe as the NUM that it was done to balance the cost of electricity to the consumers and also the survival of Eskom. Because you see, if you actually not give Eskom these tariffs that it really needs, it means that Eskom might actually disappear because it will be unable to make profit. You know, and this is a battle of ideologies, you know, between the public pathway to electricity generation and distribution and transmission and a private pathway, you know. We have been calling for a public pathway. We said Eskom must remain in the ownership of the state, being owned by the state, you know, so that it can be able to provide security of supply to our country, because we need the energy. You know, without energy, all of us, we're going to suffer because the economy is not going to run properly.
But does that mean then they must reach a settlement without public participation? Because I think that's clearly what the judge says. He says, well, the proposition by NERSA and Eskom that a major amendment could be made to the tariff decision without public participation is untenable and offends the principle of transparency enshrined in the Act. So, I mean, credibility of what you're saying may be justifiable, so that Eskom needs to claw back for its survival. But does that mean it needs to happen without proper processes of public participation?
Yeah, no, you see, the thing is, this was a miscalculation. After Eskom did the application to NERSA, and you know, all the time when Eskom after it did the application, NERSA goes around the country, the whole country, to actually do these public participation processes. You know, this was done in many times, and it goes to almost all the provinces to do this. You know, we think the court got it wrong this time. You know. And we hope Eskom is going to appeal this decision.
Yeah. But what about the fact that that particular deal has got bearing an impact on every electricity consumer? I mean, latest numbers show that households in South Africa, particularly during this festive season, were struggling even to pay for the bare minimum of household requirements. Now, a tariff increase or energy requirement adds even more pressure to those households. Shouldn't they not have a say in that particular settlement?
Yeah, you see, let's understand that this challenge was done by one organization called AfriForum. AfriForum is a minority organization in South Africa. No, it's not like it's the view of the majority, you know. It's not. We understand as the NUM that the electricity is too expensive for the consumers. We understand that. And then we will want a situation where electricity is affordable for all, you know. That's why we are calling for government to change the policy of private pathway to public pathway so that we can have affordable electricity for everyone, you see. This thing is coming from the power purchase agreements that were signed between government and the IPPs, the independent power producers. Because most of the money that Eskom is trying to recover is the money that they already paid the independent power producers. It's costing Eskom a lot of money. So we are saying let us not have independent power producers that have to be paid by Eskom, and have Eskom generating, distributing, and transmitting the electricity in the country.
Yeah, I mean, it's AfriForum today going to court, but tomorrow it will be NUM. It could be anyone that really goes to court and challenges what is core statutory framework and constitutional norms in this country on anything, that there needs to be transparency into how you've reached that 54 billion rand. Because tomorrow ICASA and the SABC can reach a deal and have their proposal without public participation. The fact that it's AfriForum that has brought it is not necessarily a reason why it should not be looked at.
Yeah, when I gave the background, I'm saying this is a miscalculation, which means it's something that is miscalculated from the previous applications, And those applications, there were public participation during the applications, And out of that, there were miscalculations. So this is just to correct the miscalculation.
Yeah.
I don't think it needed NERSA to go back to the public while the public was consulted already. Remember, even with the issue of the independent power producers, the public was consulted, But now it's giving us problems, And we are saying maybe we must review our policies as South Africa. We need to stop this process of unbundling. We need to review the independent power producers and the power purchase agreements because they are milking Eskom and they will destroy the state-owned utility.
Yeah.
We are saying we need a state-owned electricity utility which is going to produce affordable and accessible electricity for all, so that we build the economy.
No, I hear you, Mr. Baloyi, and it's absolutely true what you're raising as a point of a broader conversation. But in this particular one, I want us to just dwell a little bit to what the judge says. I mean, the judge, I understand you're saying, yes, there was broader consultation, NERSA did public participation, they came back and they reached a wrong amount. Now, the problem that we are confronted with, and the explanation that's been given to the judge, is that, well, now we have reached a compromise, because this is what Eskom is asking for, this is what NERSA says you deserve, right? 44 billion, and Eskom says 66 billion, I beg your pardon. Now, they reached a compromise, but us as the public, we don't know how they got to that number of 54 billion. How did they reach that compromise? What was calculated? Where's the paper trail of how they got to 54 billion?
Surely, if you can go to NERSA, NERSA can be able to make to explain that. I don't want to talk on behalf of NERSA, but what I want to say, that's why we are saying as the NM, we need patriotism. Yeah. We need a balancing act between the cost of electricity to the consumers and also the survival of the state utility, because we need both. We need cheap electricity or affordable electricity. At the same time, we need the state utility to be able to produce this electricity, which will be affordable and accessible.
Right.
Because we are worried that the private sector is actually making the electricity more expensive. But when these things were introduced, we were told because of competition, it will bring down the price of electricity. But we are seeing the opposite. That's why I'm saying this thing is embedded in policies, the policy direction that we are taking as a country of neoliberalism. It is costing us. We are saying let's go back to a vertically integrated Eskom, which worked for more than 100 years, and it was producing affordable electricity. Unfortunately, it was not producing for everyone, but it was producing affordable electricity.
I'm not quoting verbatim, but I mean, anecdotally, in several conversations I would have had with the Minister of Electricity, the process of unbundling, he has said it's actually beneficial to the electricity generation regime in this country. But you are coming out criticizing that, saying it needs to be reviewed. Maybe criticism is a maybe stronger word. But when you're saying review the process, what do you mean?
We are saying that it's not working. We have checked in other countries, where they unbundled their state utilities. It did not work. Some of them, they are bundling them, This thing, if you go to where it's exactly coming from, this was an advice from the World Bank. There was a World Bank report, if you remember, that actually said, no, you need to unbundle your state utility so that it can be, you can introduce competition so that it can bring down the price of electricity. But it's doing the opposite. Yeah. You see, the problem here is the theory versus the practice,
But how do you say that, Mr. Baloyi, when the Minister of Electricity says, I mean, the very thing that we are unbundling Eskom has allowed us to be where we are now. I mean, we are speaking of 2025, I mean, depending on where you live, that would tell you that there was no load shedding. The reason why we are here is because of some of these processes that we have embarked on and the reforms, including the unbundling that allows the entity to be able to go and source funding elsewhere, allows us to now focus solely on the distribution network, allows us solely to focus on generation. Saying these are the things that have helped us to be where we are. And you're coming and you're saying it does not work. I mean, on what grounds would you say it doesn't work?
We completely differ with the minister. The reason we are where we are today is because the coal power stations are functioning better. The reason we had load shedding during the time of the Redder is because he ignored the coal power station because of this liberalization of the energy sector. He wanted this thing of introducing the private sector to happen as fast as possible. And then he compromised the production of electricity. So the team that is here now is making sure that the coal power stations are working. When you look at the energy availability factor of Eskom now, it's at a very, very good position as compared to the time we had load shedding. It's the opposite. The minister must tell us the truth. The reality is the power station, the coal power stations are working better. It's not because they introduce independent power producers. Actually, the independent power producers are failing us. They fail to actually make us avoid load shedding. Even now, they're failing to make us avoid load shedding. We have 6,000 megawatts installed capacity by independent power producers of solar and wind. The problem with solar and wind is that the sun does not shine every day and the wind does not blow every day. Yeah. And it does not shine when you want it to shine, and it does not blow when you want it to blow. So those are the problems I have, and that is practicality. I'm saying theory versus practice. We need to look at that.
Yeah. There are those who would raise the issue of the fact that Eskom, I mean, is in debt and it needs to recoup a lot of money. But part of that money that they need to recoup is money that really went to corruption, and therefore consumers should not be made to pay that. And so NERSA is correct in not giving Eskom these high clawbacks that Eskom is asking for.
No. We need to deal with each problem, provide a solution for each problem. Eskom has got many problems. The country has got many problems, but we can't mix these things. We have a problem of municipalities that are not paying Eskom. Around 100 billion. It's a lot of money we're talking about. So, but we can't mix that with the tariff applications. We also cannot mix this issue that you just raised with the tariff application. That is a complete different process, which yes, it requires public participation. And we believe at the NUM that public participation has already taken place.
All right, Mr. Baloyi, I appreciate your time.